Rosann, we've known each other for 3 decades.
Yes, a long time.
And you have been a professional counselor.
As you have been a professional counselor, how many people have we known in Hong Kong?
Yes, quite a lot.
So many different people.
And so many changes.
And that's why we want to think about women now and women then, and how women have changed over these years.
That must be very interesting.
Yes.
And it covered different generations.
Always.
Well, if they're interested in what we are talking about, how are they going to find us?
They're going to find us Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, PsychoAlchemy. We are Women Now and Then.
See you there. Hi everybody, welcome back to Women Now and Then. I'm Dorothy and this is my good friend Rosann. Rosann.
Hey, hello everyone.
Hi.
Good to hear from some of you. It's been very helpful to have questions and comments.
Yes.
And people letting us know. Yeah.
Right. Since we have our episodes out and people give us feedback, and feedback is really good because we know what's the best, what needs to improve. And there are some suggestions to us. And today we are going to change our program a little bit in order to answer some of your feedback. And I think the key, Rosann, after our first episode was out, people said that we seem to, after we talk about the 20s, 30s, and 40s, somehow we overlook the 50s and onwards. So today,
that's important.
Today our episode will, instead of focusing on money, we'll focus on that. But before that, we still have other questions.
We had 2 other things. People
Yes.
wanted to know. A very young woman. She was only 22. She said, "Well, what does Dorothy do when she's not making a video?" And I thought, okay. And then she said to me, "Well, what do you do?"
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, okay, people need to know. We're human beings.
Yes.
We have professional responsibilities. And I took the question seriously. She said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, sometimes I do women in groups." To which the 22-year-old said, "Well, why do you do that?"
Women in group.
And I said, "Well, as women get older, even if they're older means in their 40s," she said, "yes, or 50s or 60s, they like to talk together because I might initiate an idea, but then one of the women in the group interprets it a little bit differently.
Yes.
And then another woman says, well, I think it could also be considered." And so you get a dynamic in the group that makes it much more appealing than simply one-on-one.
Yeah.
Now, Dorothy and I have known each other for a long time. We like talking together. And we challenge each other. So Dorothy, what do you do what's one of the things you do when you're not doing a video?
Okay, when you said you like to form a women's group where people will talk, I immediately have this Chinese saying that when 3 women are together, it becomes a marketplace. Isn't that so true, right?
So true.
Women are so good at getting together and start talking.
Yes.
They bring up one topic, and sometimes we argue. We don't always agree with each other. But the good thing is we're willing to share. And just now when you asked me what do I do other than doing this broadcasting, what else do I do? Actually, I do a lot of training.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I will use half of my time in training and half of my time in counseling. The reason why I have this, I would say, dual role is mainly because after doing counseling for so many years, I realized that I think you have the same impression too. As a counselor, people always come to us when there's problem.
Why would they come?
Right, they don't owe us any money, right? So the key is when they come to us, some of the time the problem is already quite devastating.
Yes.
Maybe sometimes we cannot even help much. And while we are sitting there hearing all these sad stories, I always have that in mind. If only they knew in advance, right?
Yes.
And what should they expect in a marriage?
Yes.
If there is a conflict in money issues, conflict in sex, conflict in how to raise a child, if they have the knowledge, and I think there's similar saying in the Western world, but in Chinese we say instead of giving the people a fish when they're hungry, maybe teach them how to fish, right?
Wow.
Yeah, we have a very, very famous
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
So what I do, I think
Yeah.
Rosann also did a lot, right?
Mhm.
When you have time, when you were
Yes.
in the school, right? We do teaching.
We do teaching. We do
Yeah.
teaching. University courses,
Mm-hmm.
courses in community
Yes.
centers.
Yes.
And it's really good when people come because they want to learn something.
Yes.
They're not quite sure exactly,
Mhm.
but they know it will be helpful to be in a setting where education's going on.
Yeah.
And this is one form of education, folks.
Mhm.
Dorothy and I are talking,
Mhm.
but as my 22-year-old
Mm-hmm.
said, that sweet girl said, I learned so much from that program on identity.
Uh-huh.
Identity.
Yeah, and
No.
and you know one thing is, when we talk about identity
Yes.
on our first episode, actually I was thinking, what I mean by identity is the concept, you know, who we are,
Who
but,
we are.
right? But also very important is expression of who we are.
Exactly.
Right? It's more than just a role. People will ask me, so what's the difference between a role and an identity? Role as a daughter is a role, right? But if we're talking about identity as a daughter is, you know, how I see myself as a daughter and how I express myself as a daughter in my Wong's family. I'm Dorothy Wong, so
Yes.
in my Wong's family. But maybe in a Lee's family will be different. So
Right.
its identity is quite different from role. It's more three dimension. That's how I see it.
3-dimension and maybe even multi-dimension
Multi-dim-
over time.
Yes.
Now, this identity
Mm.
plays into the idea that in the first session we also talked about being cross-cultural
Oh, yes.
identity.
Yes.
Because when you are in your family,
Mhm.
you know the honorifics of your household.
Mm.
You know how things are supposed to be done, how your mother likes the table organized,
Mhm.
how did the towel have to be hung up in the bathroom. You know the honorifics of your household.
Right.
But the same person
Uh-huh.
could move into even another Chinese household, but you're not the daughter anymore. So you take on a different aura, a different way of behaving.
Yes.
Now, Dorothy, I know that you have visited many American households. So in some of those American households, there will be chopsticks on the table when you eat, and some not. So Dorothy, who has done many cross-cultural visits, can be at ease, chopsticks or no chopsticks, paper napkins or linen napkins,
Or no napkins.
or no napkins, or a roll of paper towels. It's formality and informality. What we know about when people talk about cultural awareness or cultural identity, you know that 3-dimensional part of you that is you, but you also recognize the idea that another place, another setting, another family, another organization might be different. And that's what makes for this cross culture. So there's so many levels of being culturally aware. There are, now Dorothy's traveled extensively and has met with many different groups. And I have met with some. Southeast Asia has been my place of traveling. All right, but what about the person who says, well, I'm not very cross-cultural. This 22-year-old who wrote to me from the United States said, I don't think I'm very cross-cultural. So I said to her, well,
Interesting.
what do you mean? And she said, well, I haven't traveled very much.
Uh-huh,
I live in a small town in the southern part of the United States. And I said, well, do you read? And she said, well, yeah, that's... And I go on the internet, and that's how I found your program.
Uh-huh.
And I said, okay, you're by yourself, but you're reaching out to learn about other cultures. To which she said, other than reading, what can I do? So I said to her, food. Would you try Spanish food or Chinese food? And she goes, oh yeah, I do that all the time. That's another level of being aware of cultural difference.
Yeah. And if you happen, if that lady is from the States,
Yes.
if they so happen to have the Netflix, obviously they can watch movies, drama from all over the world. When I was in the States in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, well, cable TV was then very popular.
Yes.
But still, they are focusing on a lot of American production.
Yes.
But now, with the YouTube and then with Netflix and with all the satellite or whatever, there's no way you said you are very local. It really
Yes.
depends on whether you are willing to open up yourself to
Yes.
just watch programs from all over the world. But I would say that when you said that, I can really see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Hong Kong is quite unique.
It
Hong Kong
is.
itself is basically very cross-cultural, right?
The
And
whole town is, the
right.
whole
Just
city.
imagine walking from the MTR station all the way to this studio. I passed by Indian food, Italian food, Korean food, and then Chinese food are from like 15 different provinces,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
then Japanese food. So you can imagine if you are in a place already, you see cross-cultural every day. So you are quite comfortable when you bump into someone that is totally different from you, and they just come over and walk and talk to you and ask how to go to the Admiralty station, and you would just start talking to them. And I can imagine if people are not living in a place where there's a less exposure.
Yeah,
that
so
might
the
affect.
setting makes a big difference about how the person feels within herself.
Yes, yes.
That she wants to reach out, or she may have heard of other cultures, but she doesn't know how that she's not aware of how cross-cultural she is or wants to be, or could she be that way? Who would she trust? In Hong Kong, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Chinese Dorothy meets American Rosann, and we say, let's go have Thai food for lunch.
Yes.
Both of us agree.
Yes.
But you take that 22-year-old who hasn't had Thai food, and she wonders, well, should we even go away from this small town? So it's difficult. Hong Kong is very blessed. Look at all the movie theaters we have. And some of them are showing Indian movies.
Yes.
And some of them are showing some things from Bollywood. And some art films. You can go together
Yeah, yeah.
and then eat Thai food or Korean. So
Or go vegan.
go vegan.
Yes.
So we are very fortunate to
Yeah.
live in an international cross-cultural town.
Yes.
Another way in which it shows up is that, Dorothy, I will bet that you know almost as many families where the partner is not Chinese
Yes, yes, yes.
as where the partner is Chinese.
Yes, yes.
And when you go into a Chinese family home, you will see the family pictures. And they will say, oh, that's the son-in-law from Australia. My daughter's living with him. Oh, that's the guy from Italy
Right.
that we brought here because he was an exchange student. Hong Kong people do that.
Yes, yes.
They easily incorporate
Right.
people from other cultures. I don't know that there's another city, urban area, where so many families would welcome people who were ethnically, culturally different from everybody else in the family.
Yeah. Well, when you said that, I immediately think of some of my friends.
Yes.
And they have like a son-in-law from Australia, and then maybe their daughter-in-law are from Japan, right?
Yes.
So you can imagine during Chinese New Year,
Yes.
the banquet is quite interesting.
Yes.
They
Yes.
will try to stick to the traditional Chinese meal, but sometimes you realize the son-in-law that is from Australia might prefer a steak rather than all those Chinese how to say the radish cake or whatever.
Yes.
And it's a lot of funny thing. The tradition, sometimes the Westerner have no idea. You're not supposed to sweep the floor
Yes.
during Chinese New Year because all the good luck will be gone.
Oh, is that what that's about? Yes.
So they cannot understand, and you can imagine that's a lot of fun. And cross-cultural is getting so. Actually, I see that's a term.
Yes.
When I was back in the early 80s, it's not a taboo, but people don't feel comfortable because the in-law cannot speak fluent English.
Yes.
They speak a little bit English, they still feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But now you can see if the parents are in this, maybe born in the 60s or 70s,
Yes.
sure they can speak English, and I think they feel quite how to say, quite honor in a public area. They can speak English with their in-laws. And I remember one thing. My friend told me her husband actually was quite happy with son-in-law that are from UK, and they can talk a lot about what happened in UK, because my friend's husband went to boarding school then, and but his wife from Hong Kong, so she has no idea his experience in UK. So now his son-in-law is from UK, and it's like he got his son. You understand?
Yes.
Really, that it's
He
like
did.
you know, he know all his experience.
It's phenomenal.
Yes.
Now, we talked about Westerners. There might even be some people who are living in a small Chinese community, and the Chinese community might be in China, or it might be in Canada, or it might be in the States.
Oh yes.
Now, if you're part of that community where everybody speaks Putonghua and you go to classes together, college groups, maybe even teaching on a college campus, how can some of those people, if they want to break out of the Chinese culture, how did you do that, Dorothy?
I think it's
hard.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
Actually, when you when you said that, it reminded me of a few things that I talked with my friends in the last few days since the Oscar came out. Green Book got the best movie, right?
Yes.
And then a lot of my friends who still live in US said, you know, the issue with black and white, right? That, you know, and they said when they were young, they are American born Chinese, so obviously they are Chinese. But
obviously, you look at them, they're Chinese.
100% Chinese. But when they go to school, when they go to what's it? Primary school. US is called elementary school.
Elementary school.
They speak fluent English because they born in US, right? But no kids will play with them because they are Chinese, right? So when they were young, they said they struggled so hard to be part of the American.
Yes.
But the little kids see them as Chinese, yellow face. So there's a gap.
Still a gap.
Right.
Still
So
a gap.
as they get older, the American realize that this Chinese face kid is actually American in heart, right?
Yeah.
So they start to play with them, you know, hang out, and actually they had a pretty good time in high school, and then maybe even good friends at college. But the interesting thing is, as they get older, they realize they are a little bit different from the American.
Yes.
So at that
the
time,
culture comes
exactly,
through.
then the culture comes through. So they gradually start to stay away a little bit.
Yes.
And so it's like always a struggle. At that time, the American friends will say, "How come you're pulling away? How come you are more sort of tend to lean more on the Chinese community?" So that's one thing. But there is another thing you mentioned is so interesting is, if like me, when I first went to the States, obviously they see us as international students, and all the Chinese and all the Taiwanese at that time PRC people
were not so many.
Actually at the beginning, and there's a tendency that we'll group together. Because we like to cook instant noodles together, we like to order
the
pizza.
rice cooker in the room.
Rice cooker in the. Oh, actually, we only have a hot pot.
Oh,
everything is made from the hot pot.
Oh my goodness!
So there's so many things about trying to get into the American society and whether you can really learn something from the American society. And that part will take another 20 minutes. But for our first section, maybe we can end by maybe
okay.
Well, we will talk about this a little bit more when we come back, and then we move on to talk about the 50s, 60s,
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yes, we
Okay.
will. Okay.